the researchers and themselves, this is just a part of me. Clearly it's an important part because most of us spend quite a long part of every day doing the job. But it was about accepting that other people might see the job as tainted. But for them, in the group context, it was okay. And they recognise everybody else as outsiders. I mean, the Slaughtermen is a British study. It really is a very unpleasant job. But the men it's a study done by a person called Steve Ackroyd at Lancaster University. But they were tremendously proud of what they did, and they said that their social identity was that they were physically very strong. They literally were. You couldn't be a sort of slim, diminutive figure to do this job. So they reinforced positive aspects of themselves, and the job had become more and more technologically mediated. So in fact, the physical strength that was needed to do some of the work was no longer actually needed, but they maintained this idea that to do this job you have to be very physically strong and mentally quite tough as well, because it really wasn't a very nice job to do. So when we talk about these normalising tactics, we are talking about what we refer to this as identity work. This is what we have to do in an organisational setting, particularly when faced with challenges to our self-identity. Now, rather than focus on commitment and the relationship between identity and commitment, in the European literature, we take for granted that our self-identity is always challenged in an organisational setting. We've got to think of ourselves as positive, but say we screw up doing something, we screw up a job, we're going to be told, unless we can hide the fact that we've screwed up the job, we're going to be challenged about what we've done. So the argument is, and that's going to, and we might challenge ourselves. We might say, for goodness sake, why did I do that? But we'll make sense of it. We might say, we didn't have enough time. Yeah? I mean, you can imagine, you saw last week or a couple of weeks ago, that the engineer from Thiokol, who said he knew that the Challenger was going to fall out of the sky, because of the temperature at which they were launching. But he's still got to get up every day, hasn't he? With that knowledge. So he has to make sense of why he was perceived as having agreed to that decision. Yeah? So the European literature always focuses on how our self-identity is challenged in organisations, and clearly in every other social situation as well. And more importantly, the argument in the European literature is that through cultural means, management are aiming to regulate our self-identity, cultural control. They're aiming to get us to subsume our self-identity and elevate our organisational identity, that our self-identity doesn't really matter. And the argument in the European literature is that this happens obviously through cultural means and through various managerially inspired discourses. So when there was this shift towards team working, lower level workers were supposed to derive meaning from becoming a team leader. So when you introduce teams in an organisational setting on very sort of assembly line working, one person becomes a team leader, and possibly, if they're lucky, another person becomes a deputy team leader. And the argument was that through these managerially inspired discourses, workers would start to elevate their organisational identity, recognising that, I mean, even the US literature argues that it's difficult to create commitment at lower levels in the organisation. So knowledge workers and the idea that you're engaging in knowledge work means that you're, you know, that enhances your self-esteem. When quality circles were introduced in quality management, again, it's a managerially inspired discourse to say that you as a lower level employee were now responsible for quality in the organisation. And so just with the, I say in Kreiner's work they talk about normalising tactics, but in most literature, and particularly European literature, well, no, the US, we talk about identity work always going on, that we're always engaged in identity work, interpreting how we're expected to behave, how we are behaving, how we are feeling in an organisational setting, and reflecting upon what that says about ourselves. And when we engage in identity work, we either acquiesce and we either do subjugate ourselves and we spend most of our time demonstrating and being this organisation man or woman, or we resist that regulation and we see ourselves as able to resist. Right, this is taking a long while, so we'll have a break after your question.
If you talk about this implicit social control,
If
you talk about this implicit social control,
yes,
does it always have to be a negative thing from management perspective if you consider this control mechanism?
No, it's not. I mean, it's perfectly normal for management to want people to identify with the organisation. I think the difference between the US and European literature is the US literature argues for like an extreme, you know, that it's got to be very strong, because again it's all to do with some of the work ethic, you know, that you want more and more, you want to extract more and more labour out of your workforce. So no, I mean we need to identify with an organisation to some extent, but we've got many other facets of our life, haven't we? You know what I mean? So yes, it's important to identify, but we should have choice. We should have choice about what we choose to identify with, or what groups, or do you see what I mean? Isn't it? So I probably explain it in two extremes, but
if I think about the term normative control.
Sorry?
If I think about the term normative control,
yeah.
Does it have a negative connotation, or is it a positive aspect of management?
I suppose it's. I think it's just part of the management role, and I don't think. I mean, I teach MBA students occasionally who've got many years of work experience, and they've never reflected upon what they do. And it's not to say it's negative; it's part of your role. I mean, clearly, if you progress in an organisation, or if you enter an organisation as a manager, you take on board some responsibilities, you know, and some of them, and you have to make sense of them to yourself, you know. So I don't manage anybody per se, but I appraise people within the school. You know, I'm an appraiser, so I have to performance manage some people in the School of Management, but it's not quite the same role as it would be in another organisational setting. That has, for me, well, in my role, it gives me responsibilities towards that person. So if that person wasn't progressing in their career as well as they would like, some of that might come down to me. But in a normal managerial role, when you performance manage someone, then you're commenting on their good or their bad performance. And you might say to somebody, I don't think you are sufficiently committed to this organisation. Do you see what I mean? So I don't see it as necessarily a negative thing. I think it's negative if someone believes that an individual should subjugate themselves, because we have an important role to play in society, we have an important role to play with our families. Work is one aspect of our life. Yeah? Oh, it's a bit heavy. I've got some, I tell you what, it's a bit dry, but wait till you get to my quotes later. Wait till I show you what investment bankers say. You will laugh. Yeah? So it will become more amusing. I didn't realise how long this would take. So should we get back together again at 10:30? And it'll probably go on for another half an hour. But it is in the exam. And it's the primacy effect. This is the last lecture you have. You'll all remember it. Okay?